This is StoryBeat, Storytellers on Storytelling, an exploration into how master storytellers and artists develop and build brilliant stories and works of art that people everywhere love and admire. So join us as we discover how talented creators of all kinds find success in the worlds of imagination and entertainment. Here now is your host, Steve Cuden.
Thanks for joining us on StoryBeat. We're coming to you from the Center for Media Innovation on the campus of Point Park University in the heart of downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. If you like this podcast, please take a moment to give us a rating or review on whatever app or platform you're listening to. Your support helps us bring more great StoryBeat episodes to you. Well, my guest today, James Fitzgerald, has been a professional actor and teacher for more than 25 years. He's taught Shakespeare and period styles, voice and speech, stage combat and stage movement at the graduate and undergraduate levels right here at Point Park University, and as a private coach in Shakespeare audition technique and acting. He's also a company member of PICT Classic Theater here in Pittsburgh, where his credits include Shylock in Merchant of Venice, Dee Dee in Waiting for Godot, Fagin in Oliver Twist, Tiresias in Oedipus, as well as appearing in 25 other PICT productions. He's also performed at all the major theaters in Pittsburgh, including Kinetic Theater, City Theater, Quantum Theater, the Pittsburgh Public Theater, Pittsburgh Opera Theatre, and the Pittsburgh Playhouse. Regional credits include Marriot's Lincolnshire Theater, Chicago's Second City, ETC, the Royal George, Apple Tree, among other Chicago venues, including 16 seasons with Chicago Shakespeare Theater. James has also appeared off-Broadway and regionally at numerous theaters across America. He's also the recipient of 2 Joseph Jefferson Awards, including Best Supporting Actor, a Jeff Citation for Best Actor, and an OE Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He was also named Performer of the Year 2016 by the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. For the record, I've had the great good fortune to get to know James a little bit while seeing much of his outstanding work here in Pittsburgh. So it's a great privilege and joy for me to welcome the exceptionally talented James Fitzgerald to StoryBeat today. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, believe me. So tell us a little bit about your true history. I know we just went through a little bit of it in your bio, but where did all this begin? When did you first think to yourself in life, I think I would like to perform?
I'd always been interested in it as a kid, but I never did anything. I remember in my local town library, before they fixed it up all fancy, there was a little corner where they kept all the theater books. And a lot of them were pictures of old productions of musicals and things like that. And I would spend an afternoon just flipping through it. Mm-hmm. So I was always interested in it. I was always interested in old classic movies as well.
Mm-hmm. Were you a class clown?
No.
So you weren't show off in school?
No, I never got into performing until my junior year in college.
Really?
So I started very, very late.
Where was school?
Boston College.
Boston College. So you were not a theater major?
No, I was an English major with a history minor.
Well, how has that served you as a theater person, as an actor?
I think it served me very well.
In what way?
Knowing the history. Knowing
history.
Historical periods, how people functioned. Certainly the English literature. If I read a great Facebook meme, if you read books, you can live 1,000 lives.
Oh, wow.
If you never read a book, you only get one.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, that says it all.
That does say it all. And you believe that all of that history and literature has informed the way that you've performed various parts?
Yes, because I tend to do more classical themed productions.
Certainly.
Knowing the background, knowing the social norms of the time.
Yeah.
Behavior,
You've certainly done lots of historical type shows for PICT.
Yes.
That's for sure.
I think it's quite fun. I mean, if you're doing Shakespeare, it's helpful to know where he's coming from in the writing of it.
Oh, indeed.
What Elizabethan society was about. Not that you can always play that, but it's good to know. It's when you're playing a Tennessee Williams, it's good to remember that you hold a chair for a lady.
Mm-hmm.
You carry a handkerchief.
Because that was of its time.
It was just part of the social commerce.
Well, I know when you did Merchant of Venice for PICT, it was set in the 1930s, I believe, was it not?
Yes, the mid to late 30s.
In Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was Alan Stanford, who's been a guest on StoryBeat, set it that way as the artistic director of the show. Well, he was the director of the show and the artistic director of PICT. But how did setting it in the 30s, what was your history knowledge of that to help you?
Partially because of the rise of fascism
Mm-hmm.
in Italy and Germany
Mm-hmm.
and Spain and everywhere else. That was really important to inform on the treatment of the character.
But Shakespeare didn't know that was coming.
No, but he had his own. The Elizabethan time had its own anti-Semitism, anti-foreigner.
Well, for sure.
And I think that's kind of what the play is about.
Mm-hmm.
It's they who are not like us.
The other.
And it's easy to vilify,
Oh, indeed, and we're seeing a certain amount of that in our society right now.
across the board.
Yes, indeed.
I do not trust those who don't act like me.
And that is a powerful message that comes from a show like The Merchant of Venice.
Absolutely.
For certain. All right, so who are your artistic heroes? Who do you look up to?
Wow. A lot of the people I work with,
Really?
I look up to. Yes. I mean, there's good actors everywhere.
All right, so prior to working with these great actors, who were the great actors you looked up to?
I remember one of the first things I saw on television that made me go, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
John Hurt
Oh,
in The Naked Civil Servant. Do you remember that?
I do remember
It was
that.
on PBS, and I had never seen anything like it. Not story-wise, certainly not acting-wise. And I was just captivated by it.
Well, one of the greatest actors of our day.
Absolutely.
John Hurt.
Absolutely.
Who recently passed away. But,
Yeah.
I mean, he was great range, and he really lived in the character.
Yeah, and he was just so adept, and you saw no trace of his own personality.
Well,
It was
and then you go to the
Quentin Crisp.
You go to the Elephant Man, and he just totally disappears into that. Well, that makeup helps, but nevertheless, he played that. You totally lost John Hurt in there.
Yeah, it was absolutely heartbreaking. Right. And then I remember watching, because PBS was a big thing in our house.
Mm-hmm.
That and late night Sunday movies. We would all gather and watch this. Brideshead Revisited, if you remember the original broadcast of that.
Is Jeremy Irons in that?
Jeremy Irons, Anthony Andrews, I believe.
Anthony Andrews.
Olivier.
Yes.
It was just stylish, and it was the heyday of the 20s, and such a painful story. Made me read the book, which I go back to every couple of years and reread it. It's one of the saddest books I've ever read in my life, although he considered it a comedy.
That's Mom, right?
Green.
Oh, it's
Graham Greene.
Was it Graham Greene?
Mm-hmm. I believe.
Okay, you know better than me, believe me.
If I got that wrong, there will be phone calls.
And well, it'll be you they're calling because they don't know my number. Everyone's lost my number by now. So he thought it was a comedy.
He thought of it as a social comedy, a commentary on upper class.
Wow.
And their predilections.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Because I would never in a million years think of that as a comedy.
It's such a brilliant novel. It's absolutely brilliant. And a brilliant film. It's just amazing.
Right.
And that's kind of got me into, I want to do that stuff.
And that was from way back when. That was early days.
That was early. That was early high school.
And that inspired you to want to do this. But you didn't do any theater work in high school, right?
No.
It wasn't until the third year of college.
Right.
And what was it that brought you to the theater then?
I wanted to try it because I had a bit of a stammer when I spoke in public.
I find that really hard to believe.
That's true. That's true.
And there have been many performers I know who have overcome some sort of speech issue to become quite eloquent.
Yeah, and I saw auditions for the drama club, and thought, well, one way to get over this is to put it to the test. And I auditioned and got in. And
much to your surprise, no doubt.
Much to my surprise. I still remember the part. I was the newspaper kid in Streetcar Named Desire. That was my first role.
And can you remember any of those lines? I bet you can't.
No.
I wouldn't expect you to.
Yeah. I remember pacing backstage like young actors. The only bit of business I had was a lighter to light her cigarette, if you recall. She's trying to hit on him. All I kept thinking, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? I better flick it 90,000 times before I make my entrance to make sure it works.
That'll burn it out fast.
I found that out. One night it didn't. And so that was trial by fire.
It's
literally.
The stories I love are the stories of people that have to fire a gun on stage, but then the gun doesn't fire.
I was doing a production of Assassins.
Yes.
In Chicago. Happened regularly.
What part were you playing?
Gateau.
Gateau.
And it's a very interesting show. People don't know what they're getting into, when they walk in.
Yes.
Oh, it's a happy musical about, I don't know, assassins.
It's Sondheim.
And there was the first performance. It was in a theater called the Apple Tree. And we do the first number. Everybody's gun goes off. Thank goodness. Because during rehearsal, half of them would not work. So they said, oh, no, we'll just crash a cymbal or a drum beat. I was like, oh, okay. Do the number. I come out for my first entrance, and a quarter of the audience gets up and leaves. They get up and walk out. I look around to my fellow castmates, who I'm assuming are going to be supportive and help me ad-lib through this. None of them are even looking at me. Their heads are buried down, shoulders shaking. It was very, very interesting. But the guns never worked consistently.
So what was the solution when you knew they weren't going to work?
They tried a sound effect, but that's awfully hard to time.
Oh, it's impossible to time.
The drummer in the orchestra, he would make a crash.
But that would then sound like you told a joke.
One would think it's the rim shot assassin.
Well, props are a whole story unto themselves, aren't they?
Oh, goodness, yes.
All right, so did you then start to get trained somewhere? Did you go to training?
I did, because I really didn't have any. So I moved to Chicago and went for a year at the Goodman School of Drama.
What brought you from Boston to Chicago? What was the...
I auditioned for the school.
I see.
And they took me in, and shortly after I ran out of money. So I went and started working. I started auditioning for plays, and I've always thought theater anyway is an apprenticeship business, because
you realized that early on.
Very, I would take private voice class,
Mm-hmm.
I would take an acting class, I would take a fencing class, I would pay other actors who were much better than me.
Yes,
and it's like, oh, can you coach me? Can you show me stuff? And the idea of a theater school is fairly new.
Right.
Years ago, it was like running off and joining the circus.
Not that it still isn't.
It is in a lot of ways. But the young actor would learn from the older actors.
Sure.
And in your off time, they would give you a fencing class, a dance class.
Right.
Teach you a dialect.
Right.
So you learned by doing, and I think which is more important for me, every night watching brilliant actors, figuring out, how are they doing that? What are they doing?
Were you standing in the wings watching them?
If I were not on stage, I would be.
Yeah.
You know.
Were you watching them while you were on stage?
Oh, God, yeah. Because usually, at that point, it was a great learning curve.
Sure.
You start out soldiers.
Yeah.
Messengers.
Yeah. Spear carriers.
Spear carriers.
Exactly.
And that's how you learn how to be on stage, how to point focus. All of those practical, crafty things.
Yeah, because it's both an art and a craft.
Absolutely.
Much like writing is an art and a craft.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to have both sides. It's not just that you're a talent, but that you actually understand the craft of it as well.
Absolutely.
And so if you stand outside of your light, people won't see you.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to learn to stand in your light.
You need to speak so the 500 people
Sure.
can catch you.
Especially at a distance.
Yeah.
Unlike in the movies where you're trying to bring it all the way down. Yeah, so those are craft things. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for many people, they find the business of acting to be a calling. Did it turn out to be a calling for you?
Not so much a calling. I enjoyed it. I started getting better at it.
And did it then become a love?
That's a tough one, a love.
Do you love it now? Or is it more of a job for you?
It's both.
It's both.
It's both. It's something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that discovery of things.
Right.
You know, the discovery of what makes this person different.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you portray that
Mm-hmm.
effectively so that a third party can get it,
Do you
can understand it?
Yeah, I mean obviously that's the end result, is that you're communicating to an audience of hopefully many, not one, but hopefully many, and you want them to understand what it is you're trying to project.
Absolutely.
And that's coming from both the writing and your performance.
Yes. I mean, if you can perform, certainly. I think there's a bit of a difference between performing and acting.
All right, so acting, I guess the ultimate, from my understanding, the ultimate in acting would be to get to a point of being, where you are living the part on stage. And that's kind of rare for actors. You don't quite get there every time you do.
I think it's part of it. It's the being in, actors always say, in the moment.
In the moment, sure.
But it's also the knowledge or the hope that the audience, even if it's an audience member of one,
Mm-hmm.
can actually completely understand what this character is going through on stage.
Mm-hmm. And
Take them. I had a great acting teacher saying, it's all well and good that you go and, explore these emotions in rehearsal, and you have the heights and lows and the breadth of abject emotional stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not your job. Your job is to take the audience on the roller coaster.
Interesting.
You take them on the ride. It's not so much about you crying. It's getting them to cry.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ultimate empathy
Mm-hmm.
and compassion.
Well, that's what the audience wants. The audience wants to be sucked all the way into the story, whatever that story is.
Hopefully, and see what they get out of it.
Because it's not really ever about just your character. It's about all the characters and the story itself.
Right. I mean, it was interesting, for example, with Shylock,
Yeah.
The character isn't nice. He's not a nice man.
No.
But
he's the protagonist.
No, he's not.
You don't think he's the protagonist?
Originally, he's the subplot.
That's
It's Portia.
interesting.
It's Portia's journey. It's Portia's story.
I guess that's true.
And it's all about, women at that time. And, unfortunately, still a little true. Women are commodities. Women are bargaining tools.
Mm-hmm.
Women equal money.
Sure. Well, in those days, for sure.
For sure. And Shylock is just a comic villain originally.
Mm-hmm.
It's not his story, but he has become the story because
Mm-hmm.
Shakespeare has made him, his plight so sympathetic.
Yeah.
So sympathetic.
Yeah.
But he's not a nice man. And it was interesting to bring both of those aspects to the stage.
No, he goes and takes a pound of flesh.
Yeah. Because he's been reviled.
Yeah.
And lost his daughter.
Yeah. So he's both hurt and ticked off and not nice.
And revenge. He wants the revenge.
Yeah. So, all right. So when you took, let's use that as an example. When you took that role on, had you played it before? Had you been in it before?
No, I hadn't.
So it was the first time for you.
Yeah.
And you were working toward, so all right, you have the role. What is the first thing you do? Where do you start? Is it always the same for you? Does it change with every role?
Every role. Every role is completely different.
Completely different.
You have certain bag of tools.
So tell us about those tools.
One is the language,
Mm-hmm.
your ability to read the script in such a way where it gives you information about the character, especially in the great writing. You can never make assumptions. An actor, death. If you make an assumption, oh, this is a happy speech. Oh, this is a sad speech.
Yeah.
Oh, this is an angry speech.
Right.
How do you know? There's by looking at exactly what's on the page. If you start filling in and making up stuff, I think it becomes too general. It becomes too cliched.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this villain, Shylock is a hand-wringing, mustache-twirling villain.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing says that about him in his lines.
Well, Well, that's right. You're looking for what is the evidence of the character in the lines.
Exactly.
And then what's between the lines, too.
Sure. How does this character tick? How does he think? One of the things I promote when I'm teaching Shakespeare, the characters are how they talk. That's who they are, is how they communicate, how they speak. So it's very interesting to look at exactly what they say, you know. For example, people will automatically say, oh, to be or not to be. Oh, that's sad. Who says? There's nothing sad in that line.
Well, and certainly Shakespeare, of all the writers, and certainly most people consider him the greatest of all time, there's almost nothing in Shakespeare to guide you except the lines.
That's all you've got. Everything else is your own assumption, your own lens.
He doesn't give you parentheticals and tell you sidebars. You have to figure it out from what is sitting there on the page.
Yeah, it's the language is everything.
And he is almost impossible to improvise on.
Not necessarily.
No, you've improvised Shakespeare?
When you start working in verse, blank verse, especially Shakespeare, it in a way rewires your brain.
You
start
talking
thinking that way. It's really fascinating. Your brain gets a little rewired. You start thinking in iambic.
Really?
Which I think most of us do anyway.
Do you then start speaking more and more in iambic on the street?
I think if you listen to people in their normal speech, they do. I went down to the store the other day. That's 10 syllables. That's iambic pentameter. And people tend to do that without being aware of it. If you want to stay up all night, this will keep you up all night. Just as you're going off to bed, think.
Just what I need.
I wonder, how do I think thoughts?
I wonder, how do I think thoughts? Is that 10 syllables?
It's 8, but you get 2 beats. For an action.
Oh, I do not want to be thinking, how do I think thoughts?
How do I think thoughts? I mean, so rarely do we think in sentences. Hardly ever. The words are just there.
Well, there's a famous story, and it's completely off track, but there's a famous story about Gary Player, the great professional golfer.
Sure.
Gary Player, who was a fitness buff. And there was a day when he was standing hitting golf balls on the practice range, and some golfer, just to play with him, walked up and said, "Gary, do you breathe in or out when you're swinging on your backswing?" And he just got screwed up for weeks on that.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
It's like saying to an actor, "Do you breathe in or out on that line?" Well, what?
Yeah, as you start thinking about its death, But we think in poetic images, and when you start working with Shakespeare, he does have these little nice chunks of poetic image. So the words just start coming out. So you can, if you're in real trouble, and you know the script and you know what it is, you can paraphrase in the style of.
Well, the most astonishing thing about Shakespeare in particular is how many different ways he can be played. The different characters can be played. You're not really stuck down one road with any one of them.
No, you're really not, because it's obviously filtered through you as the actor. What is important to you? What is the big trigger moments?
But you still need a director to give you a total picture. You can't just, as a rogue, go off and do whatever you want. You're still working within a company.
You're working within the parameters of the script.
Right.
It's not like you can go rogue, because then the play as a whole will lose its impact for the audience.
Sure. Sure.
If I wanted to, do my one-man Shylock, that's a totally different thing.
When will that be?
Oh, God. In my dream.
The famous Fitzgerald one-man Shylock.
Yeah, that'll be a rouser. That'll pack him in.
Well, we've got a guy in town right now doing one-man Star Wars, so you may as well do it.
That's funny. That's comedy.
That is funny. All right, so aside from reading the script, what else do you think about when you're developing character? Physicality,
I think, for me, a lot of times, if I'm kind of stuck, I will think, how does this character sound? What is his sound? How does he, I can't think of a more concrete way to do that. What is his tone? What is his rhythm?
The rhythms.
It's absolutely in the rhythms. Then how does he walk? What in the lines tell me, how does he move? Is he flailing his hands, or does he just do one gesture that has all the more than you need to know? That'll convey that state,
Right. Do you find that directors are asking you to go more quickly, more slowly, those kinds of directions? Or do you find that it has to do with your intentions?
I think once you find the rhythm of the line, the rhythm of the thought, then the speed takes care of itself. You'll hear a lot, pick up your cues, pick up your cues. And I think that's because the rhythm, the way most people speak, if you say a thought, the third word you say, I might pick up on and respond to it. That's why we're always overlapping each other.
Right.
Because we're picking up on one little thing so we can jump in.
Right.
Unfortunately, on stage, you have to be heard. The complete line has to be heard.
Right.
But you can't wait because what you need to get out is too important.
Sure.
Well,
because the lines are actually propelling a story forward.
Absolutely. So if we take air out, the story becomes more compelling. It moves forward like a shark.
Sure.
It doesn't swim in a circle. It keeps going.
Well, so one of the things that we teach here in screenwriting is that movies are like a shark. They must move forward. But plays and novels and poems, you can have them go what we call vertically. They can start in one place and go and never actually move forward, but they keep going up in the storytelling. It's your ideas are going up, not forward like a shark. So you were in what I think of as the greatest play of the 20th century, which is Waiting for Godot. For my money, that's the greatest play of the 20th century. And that is the perfect example of a play that goes vertical. You start in one place, and though lots and lots of things happen, you never actually move forward.
The ultimate dilemma.
The ultimate dilemma.
That's the ultimate dilemma. And it was interesting working on that. And Alan was genius at it because he's done it. He knows.
Alan Stanford played it for 20 years around the world.
And I was having a terribly hard time memorizing it because it's so circular with minor variations. We're doing this again. Where are we? Marty and I would be rehearsing.
He's talking about Marty Giles.
Marty Giles, the lovely, brilliant actor. Brilliant. And he was an amazing go-go. It's just terrific. But we would be going along in rehearsal, and then someone would drop a line, and we'd get stuck. We'd have to start at the very beginning of the play, no matter where we were.
Wow.
And Ella was brilliant at helping us because he pointed out the internal logic of the play. It's not just going in circles for the sake of going in circles. There is a logic to it.
100%.
So once you track that, the character's logic, then the lines become, oh, well, of course that's what you say next. Of course, it just led up to that. Of course it's a repetition. That's the point.
Well, that is the point.
We're stuck in time.
You don't move forward.
How can you?
Exactly.
How can you?
And yet the entire universe is in that play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It touches on so many different things.
All of humanity, all of life, all of really what has happened on Earth is right there in that play.
Yeah.
And yet nothing happens.
Welcome to life.
It's fantastic that way.
It's pretty remarkable.
Look
at the history of the world in a lot of ways.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question that I ask a lot of folks on this show that we'll see how you answer it. What for you makes a story good?
What makes a story
Or I'll give you
good?
I'll give you an out. What makes a character good? And I don't mean good as in good and bad. I mean, what makes it compelling? What makes it worthwhile?
I think the character has to have a connection with our common humanity. I know that sounds pompous, but there has to be something
I don't think that's pompous.
recognizable through this portrayal of a character that elicits empathy from the audience, if not compassion. Let's stick with Shakespeare. Richard III. Awful fellow, but he's got a sense of humor. He's actually very funny. And in that first monologue, now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by the son of York. By talking to the audience, We become complicit.
All right, now I'm going to ask you to do
And
that
we
line.
laugh.
I'm going to ask you to do that line again and actually do it.
Oh, good Lord, I've never played him. So
Go ahead.
Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this son of York.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Well, he's funny. He's sarcastic. It's ridiculous. And he tells it to the audience. Now the audience is complicit. So every horrible thing he does, he can look at the audience and say, "You knew it was coming. I told you what was going to happen.
Sure, you're
Don't
set
blame
up.
me.
You're set up
You're
for it.
guilty too."
Indeed.
And we're all guilty of that. You know, it's that's what makes these characters compelling, that they resemble human beings so much. Turning on a dime, changing your mind, extremes. Watch a good fight on the bus. If that's not compelling, I don't know what is. A good screaming match. It's annoying, but how people's emotions work and how they interact.
And how it builds like a good drama builds.
Absolutely.
And it rises in action and intensity in a really good fight, for sure.
Absolutely. And a lot of that is vertical.
It is vertical.
Why do we, if we want a good argument, I want revenge, I'll rehash something else. I'll push your buttons that I know I can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, wow, we are all guilty of that kind of cruelty.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's no point, I think, to having drama without it being in some way showing us our humanity.
Oh, absolutely. And showing that, I think, is inherently compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Someone, I don't know if it was Alan Rickman, perhaps, we go to theater, to hear these stories about ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and what it means to be human, what it means to be a human being alive in this world. That's what all plays are about. That's what all stories are about.
So I contend that the main reason why we go to movies and watch TV and read books and go to plays and so on, I contend that the main reason is that we're looking for not only that who we are,
Mm-hmm.
but we're looking for that moment of catharsis in the resolution of the story, so that we can purge our own emotions. That in the dark we're able to purge it in a group setting,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the addictive quality of storytelling.
I think so. And to recognize that awfulness so we can judge it, move forward
from it. Yeah, sure.
It's why Oedipus is done over and over. It's awful. But there is that release in that, holy crap, I'm capable of that too.
Mm-hmm.
I choose not to, but I understand it.
How
A philosopher wrote, I forget the philosopher, and I'm probably going to misquote it, but what is the function of all art? Is to answer the question, why are we born into a world knowing I'm going to die? That's a happy thought, huh?
A big dilemma there.
It's a
isn't
big
it?
dilemma. So it's describing what it means to be a human being.
Because truthfully, no king, no extraordinarily wealthy person, no famous person, no a well-regarded person has ever escaped it, have they?
No one's come back to say anything.
No.
Really?
Not that we're aware of.
Not that we have evidence of.
So how often in your career, because I'm going to jump to a conclusion and correct me if I'm wrong, that occasionally you take on a role that you may not necessarily want or like, but you need to take it on because you need to make a living. And so sometimes you'll take something on because it's there and they've offered it to you. And my question is what do you do when that happens? How do you treat the role? Do you treat it just like it's the greatest Shakespearean role ever, or what do you do?
Not really. I mean, I've done those plays where, you know what, it's not my favorite role, it's not my favorite play, but I need the weeks. I need to work.
Absolutely true.
And you make a go of it with your fellow actors. You be professional.
Yeah.
You do your job.
Yeah.
I show up on time. I will listen to the director. I'll find something in the character to explore and play or fill in.
In other words, it's because I've seen you enough times to know that you don't phone it in. You're not just going to do it, walk through it. You're going to do it and give it your all.
I don't see how actors can do that.
Oh, you've seen actors phoning it in.
I've seen it, but wow, what a disservice.
It is a disservice.
What a disservice to the audience.
Well, that's what, going back when I used to do a little bit of acting in my youth, my wayward youth, And I was in a show at USC when I was a student there called I Remember Mama, which is a little bit treacly, not exactly the greatest play ever written, a little bit treacly. And it was directed by a very well-known character actor in the movies named Lonnie Chapman.
Sure.
Lonnie Chapman had been in lots of very good movies, but he was never a famous name. He wasn't the lead. He was always a character. And we were grumbling one day that this play is not very good and we don't like it and blah, blah, blah. And he castigated the entire cast at that moment. And he said, look, and he had that growly voice like this. And he said, you must treat this like it's Shakespeare. And that's how you must proceed, as if it's the greatest play that's ever been written. And I've never forgotten that. That was a great lesson for me.
That's a great lesson.
You must never downplay the play. You must always play it as if it's the greatest thing ever.
I totally agree with that. Because that's your job.
That is your job.
Your job is not about you. It's about taking the audience on the journey. Let them have a nostalgia for the past and a love for these characters. You have to love what you do. You have to, in the way there is love, you have to love the play. You have to love the story.
Because the moment you don't, it shows, doesn't it?
Completely. Absolutely.
If you're
the
not
audience can see right through it. And
it.
Ultimately, it is for an audience. It's all great to do a scene or a monologue in my apartment, but if no one's there to see it or hear it, it's only me. It's so self-indulgent in a lot of ways.
Well, I'm trying to remember how Aristotle says it. There are three parts of making art, or writing. Essentially, there's the messenger, the message, and the receiver. So you need all three parts. You need that receiver part, which is the audience. Otherwise, it's not a complete circuit.
Absolutely.
You have to have all three parts, and so you fulfill the part of the playwright's finished quest, because that's the message and the messenger, and then you become a kind of messenger as well, and then it must be fed to the receiver, i.e. the audience, or it's not complete.
Absolutely.
Because a play is just words on a page until somebody actually says the words.
Yeah, well, a play isn't a play until it's staged.
Right.
It's an artifact. It scribbles on a page.
It is.
And needs to be deciphered through a living, breathing person.
The grandest thing about it is that Shakespeare was writing, 500 years ago, and yet he still lives and breathes coming off of that paper.
Absolutely.
And his thoughts are still alive. Isn't that an interesting way to...
I think it's the surest way to immortality.
Oh, for absolutely true. That is immortal.
Yeah.
Though he isn't, in theory, around to enjoy it, although who knows. But the fact that the words continue to breathe long after the author is gone.
Because we still feel those things. We still experience those things. Maybe not exactly the same way, but we all know what jealousy is. We all know what fear is. We've all hopefully know what love is. And how do we deal with those things that make us who we are? But he's talking about the exact same emotions. I mean, everyone thinks, Shakespeare must have been in the royal court. Really? Why do you think that? Well, he knows so much about politics. Well, if you read the plays or see the plays, they're not a lot about politics. The politics that are discussed is common knowledge. It's like it's the people.
Yeah.
It's the emotions of the character. It's like saying, any political job, West Wing. Aaron Sorkin doesn't know anything about the inner workings of the Situation Room.
No.
He made it up, but because it's the people that make it important.
Great storytelling is always about characters in conflict with other characters.
Absolutely.
Always. And everything else is background. So the West
Wing
is
context.
background, right? And all of Shakespeare, the histories, the courts, the kings, and so on. That's all background.
Right.
That's not what they're not about the politics. They're about the characters in conflict with other characters. I want to talk for a little bit about directors and working with directors, which of course is a huge part of what you contend with. Have you ever done a show in which you directed yourself?
No,
I
never have.
You've always had another set of eyes.
Absolutely.
Who is the initial first audience, watching what you do and judging it, and hopefully molding you in a way that becomes better and better. I mean, that's the goal, or more I don't know what the right word would, not better and better, but I don't want to say more appealing.
More effective.
Excellent, more effective.
In the storytelling.
Yeah.
I mean, I will go into a rehearsal with an idea of how I want to play this,
Right.
or, all of those actor tools. How does he sound? How does he make speech? How does he make his point? How does he gesture? How does he sit? And those are, given circumstances in the play. So I'll have an idea of that. But then a good director, well, have you thought about this?
Mm-hmm.
Here's another point of view. Here's another set of eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's invaluable. And make it a cohesive whole with the rest of the cast, with the rest of the story. It's never just about you.
Right.
You're always serving that story.
You are definitely serving the story. All right, so you've worked with many different directors over the years. Can you tell us any one or more things that directors have said to you that you found profoundly useful or helpful?
Let me think. I mean, they all are in their way. I mean, good directors are good directors. One of the reasons I love working at PICT, there's fabulous actors, and Alan knows what he's doing. He talks about, in the last show, the Heiress that we did.
Right.
My big note, I want to hear all of the word.
All of the word?
All of the words you say, I want to hear all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It would be exemplary if you said all of the words so I can understand it. And, okay, yeah, we'll do that. But you'd be surprised how, when
were people being mush-mouthed about it?
Absolutely. And that's not the style of that piece. They're
Right.
very precise.
Right.
And once we got that, the words become concrete. They become stones, if you wish it.
Mm-hmm.
And it carries so much more weight than just, saying excellent as opposed to excellent. It's a difference.
Interesting.
It's a big difference in the telling of this particular story, and you can see and feel the audience leaning forward. Their ears are hooked. Oh, what's going on? What's going on?
It's also formative of style for that particular show.
Absolutely, the style of the writing, and that has to be acknowledged.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't take a play like that and do it like you would do a Mammoth.
Mm-hmm.
It just wouldn't work.
No, totally wouldn't work.
It just
with
totally
Mammoth.
wouldn't work.
Or with Beckett.
Or it just totally wouldn't. It would be too casual. It wouldn't work in a Sam Shepard sort of way. But when you do a Sam Shepard, the way he writes is absolutely brilliant.
Or Pinter.
Absolutely. They're very, very specific,
Yeah.
And in a way, if you pay attention to that, the acting becomes so much easier.
Okay, explain.
I don't have to work so hard. I don't have to make stuff up.
It's natural when you speak.
It becomes natural.
I got it.
Yeah. I'm attuned to what the other person is saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to manufacture how I'm feeling. I'm just honestly responding as this character.
How often on stage have you never had to manufacture feeling, that it just comes?
A lot, actually. A lot.
And I assume that feels good when that happens.
It's surprising. It's surprising because if you spend time, this scene I've got to get all worked up for.
Mm-hmm.
It never works. It's false.
It has to come from that moment thing. It's in the moment.
Absolutely. And you hear it for the first time. It ultimately, the back of your brain knows what's coming.
Well, you better.
Oh, goodness, yeah. It's going to be a surprise on opening. But letting that moment happen and then moving on. Moment's over. Then the next moment.
Is there
moment.
Is there a trick to getting there? Is there a secret to getting there? Is there a technique to getting there?
I think you can use technique to get there. I think the more you work, the more you find out about how plays work, how acting works. And a lot of it is I don't have to spend time working myself up in a frenzy before I go on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I may make an entrance where, there's something going on that I'm definitely, let's say, angry about. But I don't have to spend time whipping up a false emotion. It will come when I say what I say and hear what I hear.
If you're paying attention to
If you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Because in certainly in Shakespeare, the language will get you there. The sounds will get you there.
Oh, well, there's for sure
like-
Shakespeare is that way.
And all good writing is.
It is.
Wilde is the same way.
Sure.
He'll tell you where the laughs are by just the way he puts consonants together, you know. The effortlessness of the wit.
Well, the great
you know.
writers do not want you to go off script. They want you to say the words as the words are written.
And rightfully so.
And
I
rightfully
mean,
so.
You know, the actor's job is to do that, is to embody those words.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can read an Oscar Wilde. It's not nearly as funny as when you're watching and hearing it.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as funny.
It's a little different in movies and TV. You've done a little bit of film work.
Mm-hmm.
And movies and TV, there tends to be a sense that the script is just sort of a suggestion.
Right.
And that you can the actors can kind of come in and do what they feel like
Mm-hmm.
and don't have to say the words specifically.
It's
It's true for a lot of movies.
Yeah. I forget yet again, I cannot quote this person.
Yeah.
It's, movies are what we see,
Yeah, well, that's right.
and plays are what we hear.
Yeah, that is
And
correct.
it's the image as opposed to the body.
It is. That's absolutely
know.
100% true.
So, and it's an editor's art as well. It's a director's medium.
It is.
Where the director is going to tell me what I should focus on as watching it.
That is also true. The
You know.
director's going to show you exactly what they want you to see,
Right.
and the audience has no choice in picking out what they'd rather watch on stage, which may be far afield from what's being spoken.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
All right. So you, in the early days of your career, as you started out as a young actor, I assume that you do things differently now a little bit than when you first started out, and that how did you approach directors in the beginning, and how has that changed for you? What are you looking for in directors now that you didn't when you were young?
The collaborative aspect.
In the beginning, it wasn't collaborative. You were looking for them
I didn't
to tell
know
you
anything.
what to do.
Yeah. It was, okay, go here,
Right.
say it like that,
Right.
get out. You know, then
And
leave.
now you're looking to make it a collaboration.
Yes, and I'm all for, working. We're all limited in our individual perception, and I've been known a lot to say, I don't know what you want here. Show me. Or tell me what you want to see here.
Are you asking them to actually do a line reading for you?
Occasionally.
Really?
Especially when they're kind of difficult lines. I'm not getting the meaning of the line. I'm missing a word here with the wrong emphasis.
Emphasis is on the wrong syllable?
Syllable. And it will change the meaning. And so once in a while I will say, could you say the line for me the way you want it heard?
Interesting.
And then I'll discover, why didn't I think of that?
But you've come in with a lot of prep to begin with. It's not like you're coming in with a blank slate.
I think you have to. I think that's what
I think
experience...
That's the job.
Yeah, that's the job. And I think experience teaches you more and more about what the job entails. When you're young and I'm just playing a servant. No, you need to do some work here. What kind of servant? What's in the script? What's in the director's mind?
How do you just hold your body as you walk across the stage?
That's it. That's exactly it. When I was young, I would say, what am I doing here? What's my purpose?
Mm-hmm.
And I would get everything from, you're dressing the stage. Okay, that's valid. I need a lot of bodies up there. Great. That's all I need to hear. If you don't give me a reason, then I'll be in my dressing room. Not my dressing room, but the dressing room.
The dressing room with the 40 other people.
Right. But a good director will say, I'm not sure what I'm doing here on stage. Well, sometimes you're just there to help point focus. You look at the person who's talking, which tells the audience who to pay attention to.
Interesting.
Because they see you in the background.
Mm-hmm.
They could see you do it.
And if you're scratching your butt,
you're
taking focus away.
Yes, that's exactly it.
So
you have to stay focused
mm-hmm.
on the reason why you're there.
No matter what the dimension of that part is, you must stay focused on what's happening.
Those roles are so vitally important. They create the world.
I was always told there are no small parts. There are only small actors. So that's what I've always been told, whether that's true or not. And that,
in the metaphysical sense, I suppose.
There are obviously roles that have less to do than others.
Right.
And those roles are just as important, or they wouldn't be in the play at all.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at something like Downton Abbey,
Mm-hmm.
for example. All of those unnamed maids and butlers, right?
Yes.
That don't have lines.
Yes.
They just walk through, or they just stand there.
But so important.
So important. They establish the world you're in.
That is true casting. You cast those parts to be those parts.
Look at Casablanca.
Oh, sure.
All of the best character guys in Hollywood. That first scene where they show the interior of Rick's Cafe.
Yes.
And the camera pans, and everybody's drinking and cigarettes and all of that.
Yeah.
Those guys are brilliant.
Well,
They're so individual. They're so
Yeah.
focused on what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
It creates a world.
We don't do that so much anymore, do we? In movies and TV. It tends to be just a whole gaggle of people, but they don't necessarily have differentiation.
Yeah, they don't have that commitment. Because remember, in Hollywood, all of those extras had careers. I mean, they just didn't say, "Oh, I want to be a background guy." You know, they were
Well, a lot of them were under contract.
under contract, and
They went to work like it was a company.
but they were all very good. They all knew what they were doing.
Well, sure. Right.
You know,
The studios would not have them if they weren't.
right?
That is for certain. So,
Fascinating.
what would you like more of from a director that you often don't get?
In the last couple of years, I've been pretty happy. I can't say. I mean, you have to trust the director and his vision,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have to, and you serve that. When you're stuck, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. This blocking is weird. You expect, I would like, the director to either say, "I don't know, let's fool around," or "Here's how to fix it."
Right.
And that comes with experience, and this is a better way to tell this moment's story, because every moment is its own story
Mhm.
that adds up to the big one. You know,
Over time, what I'm getting a picture from you, and correct me again if I'm wrong, that over the course of your career, you have managed to find your way into working mostly with directors who know exactly what they're doing and are helpful to you, versus directors who don't know what they're doing and are trying to figure it out themselves.
that's part. But by the same token, everybody is on their own learning curve.
All
And,
the
you know,
time.
all
And
the
If
time.
you're not, you're done. You're dead in the water.
Yeah. The last show last summer, I was down in Florida doing a new show, and Will Eno, whose writing is his own. He's got his own style.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, very difficult to track. It's very Beckettian in that way. There's a lot of circular stuff around his bend. And it was a young director who I knew as an actor. And he said, "Well, I've got some ideas about what's going on."
Mhm.
And I said, "That's great, because I don't." So it was kind of working with each other together, through the whole process.
To
And that
build it.
was fascinating,
Sure. Yeah.
Like, nobody knew all the answers. He helped me stage it,
Does that make it fun for you? That kind of a challenge?
Yeah, I mean,
Makes it-
the challenge is the best word.
Well, that's what it is. It's a challenge because you don't. If you walked in and everybody knew exactly what you're doing ahead of time, what challenge is that? You're just doing it.
Just,
So when you're working and figuring it out, especially a new play that nobody's done before, then that challenge is, how does this work?
yeah,
You're making the puzzle happen.
yeah, climbing the mountain,
You're climbing
know,
the mountain
and
for certain.
guiding your own little trail, which
Mm-hmm.
is it's hard work. I mean, I think a lot of people don't have a lot of respect unless they're in the business. How hard it is, It's like people, and God love them. I can't fault them for this. But that means I'm doing my job. You look like you were having so much fun up there.
Well,
And
look,
all you say is, "Thank you so much for being here." And I mean that sincerely. But in my head, I'm thinking, that wasn't fun. I'm working hard up here. It's fun. But honestly, thank you. You didn't see the work. You just experienced it. And I
Mhm.
think that's the best. That's the best compliment.
Well, I've said this on this show more than a few times, and I'll say it again. When you watch Fred Astaire dancing, he didn't just wake up that morning and come up with all that and just start dancing. No, it's hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of rehearsal and practice to make it look effortless.
Yeah.
And if you are effortless on stage, it's not because it's effortless. it's because you've worked your way to making it appear that way.
Right. And it's the character doing it.
Look, I spent 6 months working side by side with John Cassavetes on 3 different plays that were in repertory way back in the early 80s. And I will tell you, he's famous for having the appearance of everything being improvised, like they're making it up. And I will tell you that he worked his butt off to make it look like that.
I love those stories. It's great.
He worked extremely hard to make it look improvised.
Mm-hmm.
It was not improvised.
Yeah.
It was work and work and work and
that's-
change and change and change over and over and over again until it became improvised looking.
Yeah. That's the craft. That's
That
the
is craft.
technique.
That
you know.
is.
The inspiration is the talent or the
Indeed.
spark.
All right, so I want to talk about some technique things.
Sure.
Auditioning. I know you teach auditioning. Give us some clues about what makes auditioning go. What audition techniques do you like to teach that make it go better for folks?
I think that auditioning is such a weird process.
Indeed, it is.
It's such an arbitrary little process. You're going in, especially for stage. You go into a room with a speech from a play completely out of context, and you have your 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Goodbye.
And please nail it.
And yeah, go. Let's jump. So it's nerve-wracking because you don't have time to really present a character or anything like that. I think the best advice I could give: you're going to be nervous. It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
When you walk in and introduce yourself, just be yourself. Be the person I want to work with. Because the guys behind the table or ladies behind the table, they don't want you to be bad.
No,
They do not.
They
want
you to be great.
to be the best thing ever, so I don't have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you know that you're ahead of the game.
Well, they become heroes when they find the right people.
Oh, absolutely. Because I'll walk in and, hi, yeah, I'm a little nervous, but I have to remind myself, they're looking for me. They're looking for me to be good. They're not looking for me to be bad. Why would anybody do that?
Mm-hmm.
So just know that. Be prepared. Then just do what you do. Do what you do.
Is there so you're saying, which I know is to be totally factual, is that you're going to be nervous most of the time.
Yeah.
I think if you're not nervous, it means you don't really care that much.
There's nothing at stake for you.
Right. So the nervousness is a good thing. That anxiety is a good thing.
I think you can use it.
It may not be a good thing if it's so overblown that it's in your way. But yes, so how do you coach people to use that nervousness? What is it you say to them?
I'll usually say, well, before you start, take a deep breath, because most people forget to breathe.
Yeah. Yep.
And that doesn't help. But use that. Don't think of it as nervous. Nervous implies I'm being judged.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to look bad.
Okay.
Use that excitement to spur your character, to spur your speech. Because we don't usually go on long monologues. Well, we do in real life a lot. We do, actually.
Not on this show.
No, God, no. Let me check my watch here.
Your speechometer?
Yeah. But use that excitement into a need to talk. I need to get this information out because you, as the auditioners, need to know this. This is good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So turn it into a positive, not a negative.
Mm-hmm.
I need to share this. And that all that nervousness goes away. It becomes part of the character, not you.
Hopefully that nervousness can be turned into intensity of some kind.
That's I think so, depending on the nature of the piece you're doing.
All
of that nervousness about, my voice is shaking, it ups the stakes on your speech.
I once worked
Makes it more important.
I once worked with a teacher who said that it was a great female actress. She said that what she liked to do to audition is she would intentionally make herself as mousy as possible so that she could come in and then sort of unmask the mouse and turn into a very intense lion of sorts. Mm-hmm. And that worked more often than not. because they assume that, we're in trouble here.
Right.
This is going to be a mousy audition with a meek, mild-mannered person who turns out to be anything but. And then they think to themselves, hey, that person can act.
Yeah, I've seen people do that, and it's a yet again, it's a technique.
It is a
it's
technique.
A treat. It's like the Barbra Streisand gum story.
What's that story? I don't know that story.
Oh, that's legendary. If it's apocryphal. If it's not true, I wish it was.
Well, tell it, because I don't know it.
She went into, I believe it was Funny Girl. I could be wrong. There are musical people out there who are totally going to condemn me, and that's fine. But she evidently walked in to an audition.
We'll get them lined up outside.
With pitchforks and torches. You don't mess with musical theater stories. But she walked in to for Funny Girl.
Mm-hmm.
No one had ever heard of her.
Mm-hmm.
And she was chewing gum. And people were like, what is going on here? You're chewing gum at a Broadway audition. So she says, I'm going to be singing this. She's on stage there in the house. She pulls up a stool, takes the gum out of her mouth and sticks it to the bottom of the stool.
Okay.
Then blows them away with her voice.
Yes.
Nails it. Absolutely nails it.
I can imagine.
She walks off, and the buzz is going. The buzz is going. The stage manager comes out from the wings, looks under the chair. There's no gum.
So it's all fake.
It was all fake, just to be remembered.
Wow.
And boy, did they.
I think she could have maybe accomplished that just with the voice alone.
Yeah, but what a brilliant intro, though. Just to change your perception.
But that particular voice is one of a kind.
Yeah. And she was game to be light about it.
Yeah. Well,
You know.
and that was her thing.
Yeah.
You know. All right. So you're now in a show. You've gone through the rehearsal process.
Mm-hmm.
The show has opened. You're into your second, third, fourth night, and you've got a 3 or 4 week run. Right?
Hmm?
What do you do to stay fresh?
Oh, boy. Especially with these shorter runs.
Have you been in a really long run?
I think the longest run was about 5 months.
All right, so let's look at that one. You're now 3 months into your 5-month run. How are you staying fresh? What are you doing? Any tricks?
Fear. No.
Fear.
It's going back to the script. For me.
Mm-hmm. You go back and actually reread it?
Oh, every day.
Every day?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes during the show.
Really?
You know, if I have a break, a scene will be coming up, and I'll go over that. Because maybe there's something I missed. Maybe there's a transition I haven't got right yet.
Mm-hmm.
How can I make it more effective? You know, simpler, more honest. You know, am I missing a laugh here? Am I missing something? And go over it all the time. I was doing that long run in Chicago, and one of the actors kept by, good Lord, you're still reading that? Yeah, because I'm afraid I'm going to miss something or maybe stumble on a line or something. It's like, oh well, whatever. Okay. Then I got nominated for an award.
Well,
Not to toot my own horn, but yeah, every good actor I know never kind of puts it aside and says, well, I know it. You know, that's part of your job. You know, directors hate to hear this when I say it, but my personal mantra is get it right by closing. You know, most directors want it right by opening, but
Yes.
for me, it's like, well,
you never stop learning.
you never
as you're
stop
going.
learning.
And that's the beauty part for actors, I would think, of doing a live show, not a movie, but something that you're doing over and over and over again, is you're always looking for some other, did I miss something? Can I improve this? Because it's never, ever actually perfect.
No, and that's the ephemeral nature of theater. It's always going to be different. The audience is always going to be different.
Every performance is a little different.
The energy is going to be different. And that's what's that's what's really interesting about it, because it is so personal, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, part of the professionalism, it's a new audience. They're paying money to see you, you know.
Okay, so you have a career in which occasionally you don't have an acting job, as Jim puts his head in his hands. Occasionally you're between gigs, as they say. Mm-hmm. What do you do to stay sharp?
I tend to read what's new out there.
Mm-hmm.
I read plays. And I recommend, when I'm teaching young actors,
Mm-hmm.
you're in a constant state of warming up.
Interesting.
Every morning you do your stretches, you do that. When you're walking down to the bus, you're doing vocal exercises to yourself, your articulation exercises. You're running monologues in your head. Say them out loud, because you're constantly ready to go.
Because you might get an audition tomorrow.
You might get it tomorrow, and you'll be ready. You won't have to start from scratch.
But even after all these years of doing what you've done and knowing what you know and all the experiences you've had, even to this day, you still are practicing your craft in between being in something.
On the bus ride here,
You're
on the bus ride
working your
here.
craft.
I
think that's the mark of a true professional.
You're doing, to yourself. You'll always get a seat by yourself when you do this. Just saying. But I think you're constantly in a state of warming up. And by warming up, read poetry out loud. It helps. Read plays out loud. Why not? It's just you, and learn a new skill. If don't know how to waltz, learn to waltz. Go to coaching. Work on those skills.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not being cast, I wonder why. Maybe I need to work on something. I need to, maybe every once in a while, it's great to go back to basics. How do I analyze a script? How do I work on a scene? It's good to remind yourself of those basic things.
I think the great professionals in all forms of all careers need to remind themselves of the basics all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I really do. I mean, again, it's something else I've said on this show more than once. We have some of the highest paid athletes in the world in baseball players. And what do they do every spring? They go to spring training. And what do? They work on fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they're the highest paid athletes in their field, and they are the greatest in the world, and yet they have to work on fundamentals every year.
Every year. What are they doing in the off season?
They're working on fundamentals. They're working on strengthening and hitting and whatever they need to work on physically.
Yeah.
And psychologically for that.
Oh,
matter.
absolutely. It's a whole mindset.
So we've been talking with James Fitzgerald, one of the finest actors anywhere, but especially we're fortunate to have him here in the city of Pittsburgh.
Thank you.
We've been talking, believe it or not, for an hour and 5 minutes.
Wow.
And we're going to ask the famous last two questions here. So in all of your years of experience and the many different shows you've done, can you relate to us something that's happened to you that was either quirky or weird or offbeat or oddball or just plain funny that's happened?
Yeah, every show has its own quirks,
Give us one or two.
I mean, the audience can be quirky, Someone will forget a line, which makes everybody laugh. Someone will forget an entrance, which is kind of bizarre.
What do you do?
Okay, here's a good story. I was doing Kismet in Chicago.
Okay.
And I was playing the Wazir, the bad guy.
Yeah.
I used to get funny roles. Now I'm always the bad guy. And the play cannot continue. The story cannot continue until this bandit character is dragged in and thrown at my feet, and then, then Amulet comes out. And so the rest of the story can continue. So I say, bring in this guy. And, the music sounds, no actor. There's a pause. Now, this is a matinee. This is, mostly seniors. And we're in the round doing this. It's a lovely theater. And the stage is full of guards and the queen and assorted minions. And I went to the first guy standing to my left, who I should have kept, and looked at him. He's a great actor, Ron Keaton. And I said, go out and find this beggar and bring him before me. Yes, sire. And he runs off. Minute passes, which is an eternity.
Oh, that's a long time.
Oh, it felt like 10 minutes. So I went up to...
Was the audience coughing and restless in their seats?
Not yet. But, okay, I have to ad-lib something, and I'm horrible at that. I'm really rubbish at it. So I went up to the first fellow, and if you know Kismet, it's not strict romantic language. The music is lovely. But I went up to this first guy who was just sweating bullets. And I said, so, did you hear about the camel that passed out in the marketplace this morning? And a straight panic face, he went, no. Okay, I'll move to the next guy. I went up to every actor on that stage, tried to engage conversation to fill the time, and no one helped until finally I said, right, I'm just going to go back to my throne and read my paper. The Baghdad Gazette.
The Baghdad Gazette.
Because I'm king. Why am I working so hard for you people? And you're not helping. Another long, long pause. Finally, the actress who was playing the queen had enough, and she turned to the audience and said, ladies and gentlemen, obviously something, and that's when the actor came on. With his beard half off.
Oh.
He was half out of costume, because he had thought he was done.
Oh, my goodness.
So he was on the phone to somebody.
Oh,
and
my
Ron
goodness.
finally found him at a phone and dragged him back on stage. So that stuff happens. That happens.
Aside from guns not going off.
Aside from guns not going off.
That's
yeah.
hilarious. Was
Yeah,
that?
very funny.
Did you have flop sweats by the time that started to go, or is it like, what do we do?
It's the moment of, what do we do? Okay, I'm the guy in the biggest hat, so I guess I better talk. You know? So,
Oh,
yeah, there's a moment of flop sweat. It happens. You know, and you have to make something up. You know, happens at Shakespeare all the time. Someone will forget an entrance, and you have to start making something up.
in iambic pentameter.
That's when you do some homework. You start thinking, I wonder if I'm going to have to make something up. You know, so you make up something that you always have in the back of your mind that you
Really?
can throw in. Yes,
You just sort of have it as an ace in the hole.
if you need it. A friend of mine years ago wrote this piece. I can't remember the whole of it, but it's taken from random lines in every Shakespearean play
Oh, really?
that any character can say at any point in the play.
Really?
So it's just waxing about the night and the stars, like Alexander riding through Athens on his horse Bucephalus, and by then the actor will come in, and you can stop.
Well, I will say, I personally, and I assume I'm not terribly alone, I personally find it hard to get into Shakespeare for the first 15, 20 minutes of any show. It takes a while for my ear to warm up to what the language is.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say practically anything, and I really won't know whether you're saying the right thing or not. I won't have a clue, because the wording in the beginning for me of most Shakespearean plays is, it takes me a while to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And once I get it, then I'm good. But so that's what he's talking about. He's just making stuff up based on all the other
Yeah,
lines.
it's about the night and the stars, but that's another technical thing. It's like with Shakespeare or a dialect show.
Yes.
You're doing a dialect show. Help your audience out. Talk slow.
In the beginning.
Talk clearly.
Hmm.
So it tunes the audience's ear.
Well, PICT has done lots of Irish shows,
Right.
because PICT stands for Pittsburgh Irish and Classical Theater, or Classic Theater. And so sometimes you do get actors in with a little bit of that brogue, and you can't really understand what they're saying for a little bit of time.
Yeah, and that's part of your craft too. You work on them. You
Mhm.
practice them. It's the biggest thing about acting. It's practice.
Hmm.
You know, and help them out. Most dialect shows, a rule of thumb is, if you're the first person on stage, let's say, or when your first entrance, overdo it. Overdo it, so it gets their ear tuned to you.
Yeah.
Then you can relax into
Yeah.
it and make it more natural.
Yeah.
But you have to help the audience along.
There's a similar thing going on with musicals as well, because an audience that's never heard the songs before,
Mhm.
if they're unfamiliar with the songs, they don't understand the lyrics the first time through.
Yeah.
And so but you still go at the rhythm and pace of that song,
Sure.
whatever that tempo is.
Yeah.
And so it is challenging in musicals for the audience to understand the first one or two or more songs
Sure. And it's, the actor has to take them by the hand a little
and
bit.
drag them in.
And just guide them nice. Don't pull them in where they don't want to go, but help them.
All right, so
You
you've
know?
given us tons of great advice today, just tons of it, really. And so do you have in particular one specific piece of advice you like to give folks who are just starting out, or those that are in for a while and looking to get to the next level?
For people starting out in the business, learn about handling money.
Oh, okay.
Take care of it for those down periods.
Mhm.
If you don't have a backup job, bartending or waiting or something like that. It's just down the road. It will serve you well. It will serve you well, and most people don't think about it. They're in it for the art, and that's absolutely vital. But there's also a practical side if you choose this as a career, a profession.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something to think about. When you're starting, steal from everybody. I mean that seriously.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
You know, what is the Lionel Trilling line? Immature artists imitate, mature artists steal.
Yes.
Because if I see an actor, a gesture, a performance, a vocal pattern that I might be able to use down the line, steal away, that means you have to practice it. So you're not an imitation.
Mm-hmm.
You're not an imitation.
And that's the difference.
It's through you. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
It becomes yours.
It becomes yours.
And
sure.
Because no one's going to do it like you, but I based it on John Hurt, let's say.
Right.
You know, it's yours now. So steal away. That's the nature of the business of acting. Actors have been stealing from each other forever,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but they steal. An imitation you can see through.
Oh, for sure.
You know.
Because then it isn't you. It's you're trying to
Right.
do somebody
It's
else.
false. It's a false thing. And the audience will see through that, you know.
So here's what I'm going to wrap that with is whatever you do, don't steal money. Because you're saying take care of the money, but and go ahead and steal, but don't steal
Don't
money.
confuse the two
Yes.
in that prison is not fun.
No. Although for certain shows it might be valuable background information.
I don't look good in orange.
No.
Don't.
James, this has been a fantastic hour. And
Oh,
whatever.
so much fun.
I'm so glad you were able to stop by StoryBeat today.
I'm so glad you asked me. Thank you.
And so we've come to the end of today's StoryBeat. If you like this podcast, please take a moment to give us a comment, rating, or review on whatever app or platform you're listening to. Your support helps us bring more great episodes to you. This podcast would not have been possible without the generous support of the Center for Media Innovation on the campus of Point Park University. Until next time, I'm Steve Cuden, and may all your stories be unforgettable.